Breaking the Chains, Rewiring Your Mind to Overcome Social Anxiety. Written and published by Ciro Irmici. Feel free to subscribe for more content. Now let's get into the book. Introduction. Understanding Social Anxiety, a Modern Epidemic. Social anxiety is often called the fear of being judged. But let's be real, it's more like a non-stop, nerve-wracking imaginary talent show where you're the only contestant, and everyone else is Simon Cowell. Every social interaction can feel like a test you didn't study for, and suddenly, even ordering coffee can feel like a high-stakes performance. If this sounds familiar, you're definitely in the right place. In today's hyper-connected world, social anxiety is more common than ever. It's not just about feeling shy or introverted, it's about experiencing an intense fear of social situations that can make even the most basic human interactions feel like navigating a minefield. From meeting new people and speaking in groups to making phone calls or even just making eye contact, social anxiety can turn everyday activities into daunting challenges. But here's the good news, you're not stuck this way. Your brain, with all its anxious glitches and worry loops, is actually incredibly adaptable. It can be rewired, reshaped, and retrained to work with you, not against you. This book is your guide to breaking the chains of social anxiety, using proven techniques grounded in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a fancy term that basically means learning to think differently so you can live differently. The science behind social anxiety, how your brain works. Before we dive into the practical stuff, it's helpful to understand what's going on upstairs. Imagine your brain as an overprotective bodyguard, constantly on high alert, ready to jump at the slightest hint of danger, like that awkward pause in a conversation or the dreaded moment when someone says, "Let's go around the room and introduce ourselves." Your brain's default setting is to protect you, but it often misfires, treating social situations like actual life or death threats. This is where CBT comes in. CBT helps you identify and challenge the thought patterns that trigger your anxiety. It's like holding a mirror up to your mind, showing you the difference between reality and the stories your anxiety tells you. And don't worry, you don't have to be a psychologist to get the hang of it. We'll break it down in simple, relatable terms with plenty of examples, exercises, and maybe a few laughs along the way. Rewiring your mindset, the power of cognitive behavioral techniques. You might be thinking, can I really change how I think and feel? The answer is a resounding yes. Your brain is remarkably malleable, like Play-Doh that's been left out of the container, stiff at first, but with a little effort you can shape it into something new. Through CBT you'll learn how to catch those anxious thoughts in the act, challenge them like a detective questioning a shady witness, and replace them with healthier, more realistic ways of thinking. We'll cover everything from identifying your triggers to developing practical strategies for handling social situations without breaking into a sweat. And it's not just about managing anxiety in the moment, it's about building a solid foundation of confidence that will last. Think of this book as your personal toolkit, filled with strategies you can pull out whenever anxiety tries to take the wheel. So, whether you're here because you're tired of avoiding social events, want to speak up more at work, or just want to feel more comfortable in your own skin, you're taking an important step by picking up this book. By the end, you won't just be surviving social situations, you'll be thriving in them. And who knows, maybe even enjoying them. Let's get started on rewiring your mind one thought at a time. Welcome to the first day of your new anxiety-free life. Well, mostly anxiety-free. You're human after all, and a little awkwardness is what makes life interesting. Chapter 1. The Roots of Social Anxiety. Identifying the triggers. What sets off your anxiety? Social anxiety often feels like an unpredictable storm, rolling in unexpectedly and sweeping you off balance. But like any storm, it has patterns, triggers, and origins that, when understood, can be managed. Identifying what sets off your anxiety is the first crucial step in taking back control. It's not just about knowing you're anxious, it's about understanding why and when that anxiety rears its head. Think of your triggers as the hidden tripwires of your mind, setting off alarms at the slightest disturbance. These triggers vary from person to person and can be deeply personal. For some, it's the thought of being the center of attention. For others, it's the fear of being judged, misunderstood, or ignored. Triggers can be linked to past experiences, fears of embarrassment, or even seemingly harmless situations like talking to a stranger or entering a crowded room. What's important is recognizing these moments for what they are, not insurmountable obstacles but opportunities to understand yourself better. To begin unraveling your triggers, start by paying attention to your body's signals. Anxiety often manifests physically before it registers mentally. The sudden tightening of your chest, the quickening of your heartbeat, the sinking feeling in your stomach. These sensations are clues that something about the situation is setting off your internal alarm. Try to pinpoint what's happening around you in those moments. Is it a specific person? A type of social interaction? A certain environment? Naming these triggers doesn't just make them less mysterious, it makes them manageable. Once you've identified a trigger, the next step is to question it. Ask yourself, what about this situation makes me anxious? Often you'll find that the fear isn't rooted in reality but in a narrative you've been telling yourself. Perhaps it's the belief that people are always judging you, that every word you say is under scrutiny, or that one awkward moment will forever define you. These beliefs, though deeply ingrained, are not facts, they are thoughts. And thoughts, unlike reality, can be changed. The inner critic, how negative self-talk feeds anxiety. If social anxiety had a best friend, it would be the inner critic, that relentless voice in your head that never seems to have anything nice to say. The inner critic isn't just an occasional nuisance, it's a constant companion that undermines your confidence and amplifies your fears. It tells you that you're not good enough, that everyone is watching and waiting for you to mess up, and that it's safer to stay silent than risk saying something wrong. It's like having a bully in your brain, one that knows exactly how to push your buttons. But here's the twist. The inner critic isn't an external force, it's a part of you. It's a voice that has been shaped by past experiences, fears, and insecurities. Maybe it echoes the words of a critical parent, a harsh teacher, or a judgmental peer. Or perhaps it's simply a defense mechanism, a way to protect yourself from potential embarrassment by preemptively tearing yourself down. The inner critic thrives on negativity, feeding on every mistake, every awkward moment, and every perceived failure, magnifying them until they seem insurmountable. The problem is, when you constantly listen to this voice, you start to believe it. You begin to see yourself through the lens of your critic's harsh judgment, forgetting that this perspective is not the truth, it's just a skewed reflection. Breaking free from the inner critic's grip isn't about silencing it completely, it's about learning to challenge it. When the voice tells you, you're going to embarrass yourself, respond with, maybe, but I'll survive if I do. When it whispers, everyone is judging you, counter with, most people are too busy worrying about themselves to care. By actively engaging with your inner critic, you start to weaken its power. It's not about dismissing your fears outright, but rather about putting them in perspective. Instead of letting the critic run the show, you can take the reins, reminding yourself that it's just one voice among many, not the ultimate judge of your worth. The impact of past experiences, overcoming social trauma. Our brains are wired to remember negative experiences vividly, especially those that involve social pain. Evolutionarily, this makes sense. Remembering that awkward encounter or harsh criticism helps us avoid similar situations in the future. But in the context of social anxiety, these memories can become like heavy chains, anchoring us in the past and making it difficult to move forward. The brain's natural tendency to cling to negative experiences means that even a single bad encounter can leave a lasting mark, creating a blueprint for future interactions. Consider the first time you were embarrassed in front of a group, or the moment you felt painfully rejected by someone whose opinion mattered. These experiences don't just fade away, they often get etched into your psyche, reinforcing the belief that social situations are dangerous or humiliating. Over time, your mind starts to anticipate the same outcome in every new scenario, even when the evidence suggests otherwise. It's like replaying the same bad movie over and over, convinced that the ending will never change. But here's the crucial insight. Past experiences, no matter how painful, do not have to dictate your future. You have the power to rewrite your narrative. This isn't about pretending that those moments didn't hurt. They did, and it's okay to acknowledge that. It's about refusing to let them define you. Every social encounter is a new opportunity, unconnected to the ones that came before. You are not doomed to repeat the same mistakes. You are capable of growth, change, and resilience. Part of overcoming the impact of past experiences is learning to view them with compassion rather than judgment. Instead of berating yourself for being awkward or failing in a social situation, try to see it as a moment of learning. What did it teach you about yourself? What can you do differently next time? Remember, you are not the sum of your worst moments. Each interaction, no matter how it goes, is just a tiny part of your larger story. As you work through the exercises in this book, you'll begin to see that your social anxiety isn't a fixed part of who you are. It's a set of learned responses shaped by triggers, negative self-talk, and past experiences. And just as it was learned, it can be unlearned. The process won't be instant and it won't always be easy, but with each small step forward, you'll be rewriting the script of your life, one that's defined not by fear but by possibility. You are not alone in this journey. Social anxiety can make you feel isolated, but remember that countless others share your struggle. This book is here to guide you, to provide practical tools and insights, and to remind you that you are capable of change. Your past may have influenced who you are today, but it does not determine who you will be tomorrow. Every day is a new chance to break free from the chains of social anxiety and start living on your own terms. So take a deep breath, be kind to yourself, and let's take this journey together. The next chapter of your life is waiting, and it's going to be worth every step. Chapter 2, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, CBT, explained. What is CBT? Understanding the basics. Cognitive behavioral therapy, often referred to simply as CBT, might sound like a complex psychological term, but at its core, it's a straightforward and incredibly practical approach to managing anxiety, depression, and a host of other emotional challenges. CBT is based on a simple but powerful idea. The way we think affects the way we feel, and the way we feel affects the way we behave. It's not just about having positive thoughts or forcing yourself to be happy. It's about recognizing the unhelpful patterns of thinking that fuel anxiety and actively working to change them. Imagine your mind as a garden. For years, anxiety has been planting seeds of doubt, fear, and negativity, watering them with every anxious thought until they've grown into a tangled mess of weeds. CBT is the gardener's toolkit, equipped with the skills and strategies you need to pull out those weeds and start planting healthier, more productive thoughts in their place. It's about taking back control of your mental landscape, one thought at a time. At the heart of CBT are two main components: cognitive restructuring and behavioral activation. Cognitive restructuring is the process of identifying and challenging distorted or irrational thoughts. These are the thoughts that pop up uninvited, often exaggerated and untrue, like, everyone thinks I'm awkward, or, if I mess up, they'll never forget it. Behavioral activation, on the other hand, focuses on changing the actions that reinforce anxiety. For instance, if you avoid social situations out of fear, CBT encourages you to gradually re-engage with those experiences, building confidence through exposure. CBT is highly structured and goal-oriented, making it different from many traditional forms of therapy that focus on exploring the past. While understanding your history is valuable, CBT is all about the present and the future. It asks, what's happening right now and how can we change it? Instead of delving into why you became anxious years ago, it focuses on what you can do today to reduce that anxiety. This pragmatic approach makes CBT both empowering and effective. It's about giving you the tools to become your own therapist, equipped to handle whatever anxiety throws your way. How CBT helps rewire your thought patterns. The beauty of CBT lies in its accessibility and practicality. You don't need a psychology degree to understand it or expensive therapy sessions to benefit from it, though working with a trained therapist can certainly enhance the process. What CBT offers is a set of skills that, once learned, you can carry with you for life. It's like learning to ride a bike. The first few attempts might feel wobbly, but once you've got it, it's something you never really forget. And just like with biking, the more you practice, the smoother the ride becomes. One of the key techniques in CBT is called thought challenging. This is exactly what it sounds like: challenging the thoughts that trigger your anxiety instead of accepting them as facts. Let's say you walk into a room and immediately think, everyone here thinks I look ridiculous. That thought hits you like a wave, triggering all the usual symptoms: sweaty palms, a racing heart, the urge to turn around and leave. But rather than allowing that thought to spiral into a full-blown anxiety attack, CBT teaches you to stop, take a breath, and examine the thought critically. Ask yourself, what's the evidence that supports this thought? What's the evidence against it? More often than not, you'll find that the evidence against is much stronger. Perhaps no one has even glanced in your direction, or they're preoccupied with their own conversations. You might also ask, is there another way to look at this situation? Am I mind reading or jumping to conclusions? By dissecting the thought, you're effectively cutting it down to size, stripping away the exaggeration and revealing it for what it really is: a fear-based assumption, not a fact. Another powerful CBT tool is cognitive reframing, which involves shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing social interactions as opportunities to fail, CBT encourages you to view them as opportunities to learn and connect. For example, rather than thinking, I made a fool of myself during that presentation, reframe it as, I was nervous but I showed up and did my best. Next time I'll know how to prepare better. This isn't about sugarcoating reality or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about choosing a perspective that serves you better, one that motivates rather than paralyzes you. CBT also focuses on behavioral experiments, which are essentially mini social tests, designed to help you gather real-world evidence about your fears. If you're terrified of making a mistake in conversation, CBT might encourage you to intentionally slip up in a low-stakes situation, like telling a harmless joke that doesn't land or mispronouncing a word. The goal isn't to embarrass you, but to help you see that the consequences of these small failures are far less catastrophic than your anxiety predicts. Often you'll find that people are far more forgiving, and that your worst-case scenarios rarely, if ever, come true. Success stories, real-life transformations through CBT. CBT's effectiveness isn't just theory, it's backed by decades of research and countless personal success stories. Imagine a woman who spent years avoiding social gatherings because she feared being judged for her appearance. With CBT, she learned to challenge her self-critical thoughts and gradually reintroduced herself to social settings, starting with small, manageable steps like meeting a friend for coffee. Over time, she not only became comfortable attending larger events but even began to enjoy them. Her transformation wasn't magic, it was the result of consistent practice and the willingness to confront her fears, one thought at a time. Then there's the story of a young man who dreaded speaking in public, convinced that every word he uttered was scrutinized and ridiculed. Through CBT, he practiced exposure techniques that helped him desensitize his fear of public speaking. He started small, sharing his thoughts in group settings and gradually working up to giving presentations at work. Each success, no matter how minor, chipped away at his anxiety, and he began to see public speaking not as a threat but as a skill he could master. These transformations are not about erasing anxiety entirely, an unrealistic goal for anyone, but about reducing its power and learning to live fully in spite of it. CBT doesn't promise to make you fearless, but it does give you the tools to act in the face of fear. It's about turning down the volume on your anxiety, giving you the mental clarity and courage to engage with the world on your terms. The journey ahead. Embracing CBT as a lifelong skill. CBT is more than just a therapeutic approach. It's a mindset, a way of interacting with your own thoughts that can fundamentally change how you experience life. It's about building resilience, not just in social situations but in any context where anxiety tries to take hold. The skills you'll learn in this book aren't confined to your current struggles. They're applicable to any challenge you face, teaching you how to navigate not just the anxious moments but also the everyday ups and downs that are part of being human. Throughout this journey, you'll have moments of triumph and moments of frustration. There will be days when you feel on top of the world and days when your anxiety creeps back in. But every time you use a CBT technique, whether it's questioning a negative thought, reframing your perspective, or bravely stepping into a feared situation, you're taking a step forward. Each step, no matter how small, is progress. Think of CBT as a lifelong skill, like learning to cook or play an instrument. It requires practice, patience, and sometimes a bit of trial and error, but the rewards are immeasurable. As you move through the chapters of this book, you'll gain a deeper understanding of how your mind works and, more importantly, how to work with it rather than against it. You'll develop the confidence to face social situations without the weight of constant dread, and the insight to see anxiety for what it truly is, a part of you but not the whole story. This is the beginning of your transformation, not just into someone who can manage social anxiety, but into someone who can thrive in the face of it. As you continue reading, keep an open mind, be gentle with yourself, and remember that progress is rarely linear. Every effort you make to challenge your anxiety is a victory worth celebrating. CBT is your map, your toolkit, and your guide. You have everything you need to start rewriting your story, and it all begins here. Chapter 3. Identifying and challenging negative thoughts. Recognizing distorted thinking patterns. Negative thoughts are like uninvited guests that crash the party in your mind, often showing up when you least expect them and overstaying their welcome. They're sneaky, persistent, and sometimes so subtle that you hardly notice them until they've already set the tone for your entire day. For those struggling with social anxiety, these thoughts aren't just occasional nuisances. They're constant companions that color every interaction, decision, and perception. They act as filters through which you view the world, distorting reality and reinforcing your fears. One of the first steps in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is learning to recognize these distorted thinking patterns for what they are: automatic, exaggerated, and often irrational thoughts that trigger anxiety. These aren't conscious choices, they're habitual responses your brain has learned over time. By identifying these patterns, you can begin to interrupt the cycle and create space for more balanced, constructive thinking. A common distorted thinking pattern is catastrophizing, where you automatically assume the worst possible outcome in any situation. Let's say you're about to meet new people at a party. Instead of thinking, "This could be fun," or "I might meet someone interesting," your mind jumps straight to, "I'm going to say something stupid and everyone will think I'm an idiot." This thought isn't based on any evidence. It's a knee-jerk reaction rooted in fear. Yet it's powerful enough to make your heart race, your palms sweat, and your desire to attend the party vanish. Another frequent pattern is mind reading, where you convince yourself you know what others are thinking, usually something negative about you. During a conversation, if someone glances away or seems distracted, you might think, "They're bored with me," or "I'm coming off as awkward." In reality, the other person's behavior may have nothing to do with you. They could be tired, thinking about their own concerns, or just momentarily unfocused. But the mind-reading distortion doesn't care about reality, it only amplifies your insecurities. There's also all-or-nothing thinking, a black-and-white view where you see situations in extremes. You either have to be perfect or you're a complete failure. If you stumble over a word during a presentation, you don't just see it as a minor hiccup. You see it as evidence that you're incompetent and that everyone noticed. This kind of thinking leaves no room for nuance or self-compassion. It's a rigid, unforgiving lens that magnifies your flaws and minimizes your strengths. Recognizing these patterns is the first major step in breaking free from their grip. It's like turning on the lights in a dark room. You start to see things as they really are, not as your anxiety paints them. Each time you catch yourself engaging in distorted thinking, you're reclaiming a bit of power from your anxiety. You're training your brain to pause, reflect, and choose a different, more balanced response. Techniques to challenge and replace negative thoughts. Once you've identified these distorted thoughts, the next step is to challenge them. Challenging doesn't mean arguing with yourself or trying to force a positive spin on everything. It's about taking a curious, investigative approach, like a detective examining evidence rather than jumping to conclusions. You don't have to deny that you're feeling anxious. You just need to question the validity of the thoughts fueling that anxiety. Start by asking yourself some critical questions. Is this thought based on facts or assumptions? What evidence do I have that supports this thought? What evidence contradicts it? For instance, if your thought is, "Everyone at the meeting thinks I'm an idiot," consider the evidence. Did anyone actually say that? Did you see eye rolls or hear sighs? Or did you simply feel nervous and assume the worst? Often you'll find that the evidence is flimsy at best, a shaky foundation that doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Another powerful question is, what would I say to a friend who had this thought? If your best friend confided that they felt everyone was judging them, you'd likely respond with kindness, reminding them that people are generally preoccupied with their own concerns and aren't scrutinizing every word. Yet, when it comes to ourselves, we rarely extend the same courtesy. By stepping outside of your perspective and imagining what you'd say to someone you care about, you can begin to shift how you speak to yourself. Once you've challenged the negative thought, it's time to reframe it into something more balanced. Reframing isn't about being blindly optimistic. It's about finding a middle ground that acknowledges your concerns without catastrophizing. For example, instead of, "I'm going to embarrass myself," you might reframe it as, "I might feel nervous, but I've handled situations like this before and I can get through it." This new thought doesn't deny the anxiety, it simply puts it in perspective and reminds you of your resilience. Another useful technique is evidence gathering. Think back to past experiences that contradict your anxious thoughts. If your anxiety tells you that, "I always make a fool of myself in social situations," look for evidence that disproves it. Maybe there was a time when you confidently shared your opinion in a meeting, made a friend laugh, or navigated a conversation without issue. These moments, however small, serve as reminders that your anxiety isn't always right. The more you collect these positive experiences, the more you can weaken the grip of negative thinking. It's also helpful to challenge the permanence of negative thoughts. When anxiety strikes, it often feels overwhelming and all-encompassing, like it's here to stay forever. But no feeling is permanent. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year? Most of the time the answer is no. Realizing that your current discomfort is temporary can provide much-needed perspective and help you ride the wave of anxiety rather than be swept away by it. Reframing your inner dialogue, turning criticism into compassion. The way you talk to yourself matters. If your inner dialogue is harsh, critical, and unforgiving, it's no wonder that anxiety thrives. But just as negative self-talk can fuel anxiety, positive and compassionate self-talk can soothe it. This isn't about coddling yourself or avoiding responsibility, it's about treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer to a loved one. Imagine if you could turn your inner critic into a supportive coach, someone who acknowledges your efforts, sees your strengths, and encourages you to keep going even when things don't go perfectly. Instead of berating yourself for every perceived misstep, you'd learn to say, "That was tough but I did my best," or, "I'm learning and that's enough." This shift from criticism to compassion doesn't just feel good. It changes the entire emotional landscape of your mind. Start by noticing how often your inner critic pipes up during the day. Does it have a pattern? Does it show up when you're around new people, trying something unfamiliar, or reflecting on past mistakes? Awareness is key because once you're aware, you can begin to respond differently. Instead of letting the critic dominate the conversation, you can consciously choose to introduce a more compassionate voice. Try this simple exercise. When you catch yourself in a negative thought, pause and ask, "What would I say if I were being kind to myself right now?" This might feel awkward or unnatural at first, especially if you're used to being your own worst critic, but with practice, it becomes easier. You'll start to notice a shift in how you react to anxiety, less with panic and more with patience. Another helpful technique is to create a list of self-affirming statements that you can turn to in moments of doubt. These might include phrases like, "I am capable," "It's okay to make mistakes," or "I am worthy of connection." Keep these affirmations somewhere visible, on your phone, your bathroom mirror, or a sticky note on your desk. Repeating them regularly, especially during anxious moments, helps rewire your brain's default response from fear and self-doubt to encouragement and resilience. Remember, challenging negative thoughts and reframing your inner dialogue isn't about achieving a perfect state of mind. You'll still have anxious days and critical moments, and that's okay. The goal is to build a toolbox of strategies that you can use whenever anxiety tries to take control. Every time you recognize a distorted thought, challenge it and reframe it, you're actively rewiring your brain, teaching it to respond with calmness and clarity rather than fear and criticism. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. You'll start to notice a shift, not just in how you think but in how you feel and behave. Social situations that once seemed terrifying may still feel uncomfortable, but they'll no longer feel impossible. And when anxiety does show up, you'll have the skills to face it head-on, knowing that you have the power to change your thoughts, challenge your fears, and rewrite your story. This chapter is not just about techniques. It's about empowerment. It's about reclaiming your mind from the automatic patterns that have held you back and choosing, moment by moment, to think differently. You're not striving for perfection, you're striving for progress. And with each thought you challenge, you're breaking free from the chains of social anxiety, one mental shift at a time. Chapter 4: Exposure Therapy, Facing Your Fears Step by Step. The Power of Gradual Exposure, Small Steps to Big Changes. Exposure therapy is one of the most effective tools in the battle against social anxiety, yet it's often misunderstood. At first glance, the idea of willingly placing yourself in anxiety-provoking situations sounds counterintuitive, like running toward the very thing you've spent so much time avoiding. But exposure therapy isn't about jumping into the deep end without preparation. It's about gently wading into the waters of your fears, one manageable step at a time. Imagine your anxiety as a stubborn muscle, tense, tight, and conditioned to react defensively at the slightest provocation. Exposure therapy is like a gradual stretching exercise that slowly but surely teaches your anxiety to relax. Instead of forcing yourself into overwhelming scenarios that confirm your fears, you start with small, achievable challenges that build confidence and resilience. Over time, these small victories accumulate, and the situations that once seemed insurmountable become far less intimidating. The principle behind exposure therapy is simple. The more you avoid something, the scarier it becomes. Every time you sidestep a social situation, you reinforce the belief that it's dangerous, and your anxiety grows stronger. By facing these fears in a controlled, systematic way, you retrain your brain to see social situations as safe, manageable, and even enjoyable. You're not just teaching yourself to cope, you're teaching yourself that there's nothing to fear in the first place. Start by identifying your hierarchy of fears, the specific social situations that trigger your anxiety, ranked from least to most intimidating. For example, the thought of making small talk with a cashier might feel mildly uncomfortable, while giving a presentation in front of a large audience could feel utterly terrifying. This hierarchy isn't set in stone, and it's not about comparing your fears to others. It's about creating a personalized roadmap that guides you from the edges of your comfort zone toward the heart of what scares you. The key is to start small. If you jump straight into the most daunting scenario, you're setting yourself up for failure and reinforcing the belief that your anxiety is insurmountable. Instead, begin with the lowest rung on your ladder, a situation that's mildly uncomfortable but still manageable. Maybe it's making eye contact with strangers, initiating a brief conversation, or speaking up in a small group setting. Whatever it is, the goal is to face it with intention and awareness, using the skills you've learned in CBT to manage your thoughts and emotions. Creating your exposure hierarchy. What to tackle first. Creating an exposure hierarchy is like crafting a personalized action plan. It's a way to take the vague, overwhelming concept of facing your fears and break it down into concrete, manageable steps. This isn't about throwing yourself into anxiety-inducing situations recklessly. It's about approaching your fears with strategy and purpose. Think of it as training for a marathon. You wouldn't start by running 26 miles on your first day. You'd start with a short jog, gradually increasing your distance and endurance over time. Begin by listing all the social situations that trigger your anxiety, from the mildly uncomfortable to the intensely fear-inducing. Be specific. Instead of writing socializing, break it down into distinct scenarios like introducing myself to someone new, speaking up in a meeting, or attending a large party. The more detailed you are, the easier it will be to tackle each step systematically. Next, rate each situation on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being no anxiety and 10 being extreme, overwhelming anxiety. Don't overthink these ratings. They're not about precision. They're about getting a general sense of which situations feel most daunting. Once you've rated each scenario, organize them in order from least to most anxiety-provoking. This sequence will become your ladder, guiding you as you climb from small, manageable challenges to bigger, bolder steps. For example, your hierarchy might look something like this. 1. Making eye contact with strangers. Rating, 2. 2. Asking a store employee for help. Rating, 3. 3. Introducing yourself to a new person. Rating, 4. 4. Joining a group conversation at a social event. Rating, 5. 5. Sharing an opinion in a small meeting. Rating, 6. 6. Attending a party where you don't know many people. Rating, 7. 7. Giving a short presentation to colleagues. Rating, 8. 8. Networking at a professional event. Rating, 9. 9. Public speaking in front of a large audience. Rating, 10. Remember, this hierarchy isn't a rigid checklist but a flexible guide. You can adjust the order as needed, skip steps that feel too overwhelming, or spend more time on specific challenges. The point is to approach each step at your own pace, building confidence and momentum as you go. Managing anxiety during exposure. Staying calm and focused. Exposure therapy isn't about forcing yourself into anxiety and hoping for the best. It's about learning to navigate those moments with calmness and control. Anxiety by nature is uncomfortable, and your instinct might be to flee or avoid. But the goal of exposure isn't to eliminate anxiety completely, it's to increase your tolerance for it. You're teaching your brain that you can handle discomfort, that anxiety doesn't have to dictate your actions, and that you're stronger than the fears that hold you back. Before you engage in an exposure exercise, take a moment to center yourself. Practice deep breathing, grounding techniques, or a quick mindfulness exercise to calm your nervous system. This doesn't have to be elaborate. Something as simple as taking 3 deep breaths, focusing on the sensation of your feet on the ground, or noticing 5 things you can see around you can help anchor you in the present moment. As you begin your exposure, pay attention to what your mind is saying. Anxiety loves to narrate these experiences, often in dramatic, catastrophic terms. It might tell you, everyone is judging you, or you're going to embarrass yourself. Instead of getting swept up in this narrative, try to observe these thoughts with a sense of detachment, as if you were watching them pass by on a screen. Acknowledge their presence without engaging, like noticing clouds drifting across the sky. If you start to feel overwhelmed, gently bring your focus back to the task at hand. You might notice your heart racing, your hands shaking, or your thoughts spiraling, but remind yourself that these sensations, while uncomfortable, are temporary. Anxiety peaks like a wave, it builds, crests, and eventually recedes. The more you ride out these waves during exposure, the more your brain learns that the situation is safe, and the less intense your anxiety becomes over time. Another powerful tool during exposure is self-talk. Encouraging, compassionate self-talk can make all the difference in how you experience anxiety. Instead of berating yourself for feeling nervous, try using statements like, "This is tough, but I'm doing it," or, "I've handled anxiety before and I can handle it now." Speak to yourself as you would a supportive friend, cheering yourself on rather than criticizing. This shift from self-criticism to self-support can transform your experience, making exposure feel less like a battle and more like an act of self-growth. After each exposure exercise, take a moment to reflect on what went well. This reflection isn't about perfection. It's about acknowledging your courage, effort, and progress no matter how small. Ask yourself, what did I learn? What surprised me? What can I do differently next time? By focusing on the positive aspects of each exposure, you reinforce the idea that facing your fears is not only possible but rewarding. You're not just surviving these moments, you're actively reshaping your relationship with anxiety. Building momentum, turning exposure into a habit. Consistency is key when it comes to exposure therapy. Just as you wouldn't go to the gym once and expect to be fit for life, you can't face a fear once and expect it to vanish completely. Exposure therapy is most effective when it becomes a regular part of your routine, something you intentionally engage with, even in small ways, on a consistent basis. This doesn't mean pushing yourself every single day, but it does mean making a commitment to keep moving forward, step by step. Start by scheduling exposure exercises into your week, treating them with the same importance as any other commitment. If you're working through a particularly challenging step, break it down into smaller actions. For example, if your goal is to speak up in meetings, start by practicing with a friend or in a low-stakes environment. As you become more comfortable, gradually increase the difficulty, working your way up to the full challenge. Each success builds on the last, creating a sense of momentum that propels you forward. Celebrate your progress along the way. It's easy to get caught up in what's next and overlook how far you've come, but every step forward, no matter how small, is worth acknowledging. Keep a journal of your exposure experiences, noting what you learned, how you felt, and any positive changes you noticed. This record serves as a powerful reminder of your growth and resilience, especially on days when anxiety feels particularly stubborn. Exposure therapy isn't about erasing fear, it's about expanding your comfort zone. It's about reclaiming parts of your life that anxiety has taken from you and proving to yourself, again and again, that you are capable of facing what scares you. There will be moments when you stumble, moments when your anxiety gets the best of you, but each attempt is progress. Each exposure, no matter the outcome, is a victory over avoidance. As you continue this journey, remember that you are not alone. Countless others have walked this path before you, and many will walk it after you. Every time you step into a situation that makes you anxious, you are not just challenging your fears. You are setting a powerful example for others who struggle in silence. Your courage matters, not just for you but for everyone who faces the invisible battles of social anxiety. Exposure therapy is a practice, a process, and a commitment to yourself. It's not about perfection or conquering fear entirely, it's about learning to live fully in spite of it. With each exposure, you are rewriting the narrative of your life, turning anxiety from an obstacle into an opportunity for growth. This is the heart of exposure therapy, not just facing your fears but embracing them as a pathway to freedom, resilience, and a richer, more connected life. Chapter 5. Building Social Skills with Confidence. Mastering Small Talk. Simple tips for starting conversations. Small talk is often misunderstood and underrated, particularly by those who struggle with social anxiety. To some, it feels like pointless chatter, a superficial dance of words that lacks real connection or depth. But small talk serves a critical function in social interactions. It's the gateway to deeper conversations, a way to test the waters and build rapport before diving into more substantial topics. For people with social anxiety, however, small talk can feel daunting, like standing on the edge of a diving board, unsure of how to make the leap. The discomfort often comes from the fear of saying the wrong thing, coming off as boring, or being met with awkward silences. But the truth is, small talk isn't about impressing others. It's about creating a bridge, however flimsy, between two people. It's a way to signal openness and approachability, to show that you're willing to engage, even if the conversation is light and fleeting. Mastering small talk doesn't require you to be witty, charming, or even particularly outgoing. It just requires you to be present and willing to connect. One of the most effective ways to ease into small talk is to focus on shared experiences or observations. Commenting on your immediate surroundings, a piece of art on the wall, the weather, or the event you're both attending, offers a neutral starting point. "This room has such a great vibe," or "I'm glad the rain held off today," are simple low-stakes ways to break the ice. These kinds of observations are easy to respond to, and they invite the other person into the conversation without putting them on the spot. Another useful strategy is to ask open-ended questions that encourage the other person to share more than just a yes or no answer. Instead of asking, "Did you enjoy the movie?" try, "What did you think of the movie?" This subtle shift opens the door for a more detailed response, giving the conversation room to grow naturally. People generally enjoy talking about their opinions and experiences, and showing interest in what they have to say is one of the simplest ways to keep a conversation flowing. Remember, the goal of small talk isn't to deliver the perfect line or to captivate your audience. It's to engage in a brief exchange that signals friendliness and interest. And if you feel the conversation lagging, that's perfectly normal. There's no rule that says small talk must be seamless. It's okay to have pauses, to shift topics, or even to gracefully exit the interaction if it feels right. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become, and over time, small talk will start to feel less like a chore and more like an opportunity. Nonverbal communication, body language and eye contact. Social interactions aren't just about the words you say, they're about how you say them. Your body language, facial expressions, and eye contact all play a crucial role in how others perceive you and how you feel about yourself in social situations. For those with social anxiety, nonverbal communication can be particularly challenging. The fear of being judged often manifests physically. Avoiding eye contact, crossing arms tightly, fidgeting, or keeping a guarded posture. These subtle cues can unintentionally signal discomfort, disinterest, or nervousness, even when your intentions are quite the opposite. Learning to manage your nonverbal cues doesn't mean forcing yourself into rigid, unnatural postures. It's about becoming more aware of how your body communicates alongside your words and making small adjustments that can help you feel more confident and connected. One of the most powerful yet simple adjustments you can make is maintaining open body language. Instead of crossing your arms or turning away, keep your posture relaxed with your shoulders back and your hands visible. This conveys approachability and openness, making others feel more at ease in your presence. Eye contact, though often anxiety-inducing, is another critical aspect of nonverbal communication. It's a subtle yet powerful way to convey attentiveness, sincerity, and connection. However, it doesn't mean you have to lock eyes with someone unblinkingly. That's not only unrealistic but also uncomfortable for everyone involved. Instead, think of eye contact as a gentle rhythm. Look at the person while they're speaking, but allow yourself to glance away naturally from time to time. Aim for a balance, consistent enough to show interest but not so intense that it feels forced. Smiling, even in small doses, can also make a significant difference. A genuine smile, not necessarily a broad grin but a soft, warm expression, can disarm anxiety and create a positive feedback loop. When you smile, others are more likely to respond with warmth, which in turn boosts your confidence and helps you relax. If smiling feels difficult in the moment, try thinking of something pleasant or amusing. This can help soften your expression naturally. It's important to remember that body language and eye contact are not about perfection. They're about creating a sense of connection. You don't need to maintain a constant, socially acceptable stance. Rather, it's about aligning your nonverbal cues with your intentions. As you practice, these small adjustments will start to feel more natural, and over time, they'll contribute to a more relaxed and confident presence in social situations. Overcoming the fear of rejection and criticism. One of the most paralyzing aspects of social anxiety is the fear of rejection and criticism. It's not just the possibility of someone saying no or offering negative feedback. It's the emotional weight these moments carry, amplified by anxious thinking. For someone with social anxiety, rejection isn't just a temporary setback. It feels like a confirmation of their deepest fears, that they're not good enough, that they're awkward, or that they don't belong. This fear creates a self-fulfilling cycle, where the anticipation of rejection leads to avoidance, which in turn limits opportunities for positive social experiences. Breaking free from this cycle starts with redefining what rejection and criticism mean to you. Rather than seeing them as personal failures, try to view them as part of the human experience. Something everyone, even the most confident people, encounter regularly. Rejection doesn't define your worth. It's simply an outcome, often influenced by factors beyond your control. Criticism, too, is rarely a reflection of your entire character. It's just someone's perspective, shaped by their own experiences and biases. One way to reframe rejection is to think of it as redirection. Each no or critical comment is not an endpoint, but a stepping stone guiding you toward new opportunities, new people, and new ways of engaging with the world. Instead of internalizing rejection, see it as a moment of learning. What can I take from this experience? What might I do differently next time? This mindset shift doesn't erase the sting of rejection, but it does reduce its power to derail your confidence. Practicing self-compassion during these moments is also crucial. It's easy to spiral into self-blame after a perceived rejection, replaying the event in your mind and scrutinizing every detail. But self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer a friend. Instead of saying, "I messed up," try saying, "That was tough, but it's okay to make mistakes." Allow yourself to feel disappointed without letting it define your self-worth. It can also be helpful to seek out small, low-risk situations where you can practice handling rejection. Start with scenarios that feel less intimidating. Strike up a conversation knowing that it might fizzle, or share an idea at work even if it's not perfect. The goal isn't to set yourself up for failure, but to build resilience by experiencing that rejection, while uncomfortable, is not catastrophic. The more you expose yourself to these small doses of rejection, the less paralyzing the fear becomes. Developing assertiveness. expressing your needs and boundaries. Assertiveness is a key social skill that often gets lost in the shadow of anxiety. For many, assertiveness is mistakenly associated with confrontation or aggression, but in reality, it's about expressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs honestly and respectfully. It's the middle ground between passivity, where you suppress your needs to avoid conflict, and aggression, where you push your needs at the expense of others. Assertiveness is about valuing yourself and others equally, communicating in a way that respects both your rights and the rights of those around you. For someone with social anxiety, assertiveness can feel especially challenging. The fear of upsetting others or being perceived as demanding often leads to people-pleasing behaviors, agreeing to things you don't want to do, staying silent when you have something to say, or avoiding expressing your boundaries to keep the peace. While these actions may seem like the path of least resistance, they ultimately lead to resentment, burnout, and a diminished sense of self-worth. Building assertiveness starts with small, everyday actions. Begin by practicing saying no in low-stakes situations. If someone asks for your time or energy and you're unable or unwilling to provide it, respond with a polite but firm, "I'm sorry, but I can't commit to that right now." It may feel uncomfortable at first, but each time you assert a boundary, you reinforce the message that your needs matter. Assertiveness isn't about being rigid or unyielding. It's about finding the balance that honors both your needs and the needs of others. When expressing your thoughts or feelings, aim for I statements, which center your experience without assigning blame. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel unheard when we're talking and I'd appreciate more focus on our conversations." This approach communicates your perspective while inviting a constructive response, rather than putting the other person on the defensive. Assertiveness also involves active listening, being present, giving your full attention, and responding thoughtfully. It's not just about expressing your own needs but also respecting the needs of those you're interacting with. By listening attentively and acknowledging others' perspectives, you model the kind of respectful communication that makes assertiveness effective and reciprocal. Learning to be assertive won't eliminate conflict or guarantee that others will always respond positively, but it will give you the confidence to navigate social interactions on your own terms. It empowers you to step out of the passive role and engage with the world in a way that's true to who you are. Social skills as an ongoing practice. Embracing imperfection. Social skills are not a destination but an ongoing practice. Just like any other skill, whether it's learning an instrument, cooking, or driving, it requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to make mistakes. There will be times when conversations don't go as planned, when your mind goes blank, or when your nerves get the better of you. These moments aren't failures, they're opportunities to learn, adjust, and grow. One of the most freeing realizations in this journey is that nobody expects perfection, not from you and not from themselves. Social interactions are inherently messy, filled with awkward pauses, miscommunications, and moments of uncertainty. Embrace these imperfections as part of the process, not as evidence of your inadequacy. Every interaction, whether smooth or stilted, is a chance to build your confidence and refine your skills. As you continue to build your social skills, celebrate your progress, no matter how incremental it may seem. Each time you start a conversation, maintain eye contact, assert your needs, or handle criticism with grace, you're making strides toward greater confidence and connection. You're proving to yourself that social anxiety doesn't have to define you, that with each effort, you're breaking down the walls that have kept you isolated and moving closer to the kind of social life you want. Social skills are not about becoming the life of the party or flawlessly navigating every interaction. They're about showing up as yourself, engaging with others in a way that feels authentic, and building connections one step at a time. The journey is ongoing, and every day offers a new opportunity to practice, grow, and embrace the beautifully imperfect nature of human interaction. Chapter 6. Mindfulness Techniques to Manage Anxiety. The Role of Mindfulness in Overcoming Anxiety. Mindfulness might sound like one of those trendy buzzwords splashed across wellness blogs and yoga studios, but its value extends far beyond surface-level self-care. At its core, mindfulness is the practice of paying full attention to the present moment, without judgment or distraction. It's about tuning into what's happening right now, both inside your mind and in the world around you, without getting tangled in the web of past regrets or future worries. For anyone dealing with social anxiety, mindfulness offers a way to break free from the relentless cycle of anxious thoughts and reconnect with the here and now. When anxiety strikes, it often pulls you out of the present and plunges you into a whirlwind of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Before you know it, a simple thought like, "What if I mess up?" snowballs into a catastrophic vision of public humiliation and endless ridicule. In those moments, you're not truly living in the present. You're stuck in an imagined future that feels terrifying but is ultimately just a product of your mind. Mindfulness helps you interrupt this cycle, bringing your attention back to what's actually happening rather than what you fear might happen. Practicing mindfulness doesn't mean you're trying to eliminate anxious thoughts or feelings. In fact, mindfulness teaches you to acknowledge these thoughts and emotions without being consumed by them. Instead of fighting against anxiety, you learn to coexist with it, observing it as a passing experience rather than a permanent state. It's like standing on the shore watching waves crash and recede, rather than being swept away by the tide. One of the greatest gifts of mindfulness is the ability to cultivate a non-judgmental awareness of your internal world. Social anxiety often comes with a harsh inner critic, a voice that scrutinizes every misstep, amplifies every perceived flaw, and holds you to impossible standards. Mindfulness invites you to notice this critical voice without buying into it. You don't have to argue with it or prove it wrong. You simply observe it as if you were watching a cloud drift by. This detached awareness creates space between you and your anxious thoughts, allowing you to respond to them with greater calmness and clarity. Mindfulness also anchors you in the present moment, grounding you when anxiety tries to pull you into the past or the future. Whether it's the sensation of your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, or the sound of birds chirping outside your window, mindfulness encourages you to connect with what is real and tangible. In this way, it serves as a lifeline, a way to come back to yourself when anxiety feels overwhelming. Breathing and grounding exercises for immediate relief. Breathing is one of the simplest and most accessible mindfulness tools you have at your disposal. It's something you're doing every moment of every day, often without even thinking about it. But when you're anxious, your breath can become shallow, rapid, and uneven, a signal to your nervous system that something is wrong. By consciously slowing down and deepening your breath, you can send a powerful message to your body. It's okay to relax, you are safe. One of the most effective breathing techniques for managing anxiety is deep belly breathing, also known as diaphragmatic breathing. Unlike shallow chest breathing, which can exacerbate feelings of panic, deep belly breathing engages the diaphragm and promotes a full, calming exchange of oxygen. To practice, find a comfortable position, sitting or lying down, and place one hand on your chest and the other on your abdomen. Inhale slowly through your nose, allowing your abdomen to expand as you fill your lungs from the bottom up. Exhale gently through your mouth, feeling your abdomen fall. Focus on the sensation of your breath, letting each inhale and exhale draw you deeper into a state of calm. Another helpful technique is the 4-7-8 breathing exercise, which combines breath control with mindfulness. Inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4, hold your breath for a count of 7, and exhale completely through your mouth for a count of 8. This exercise not only slows your breathing but also helps regulate your heart rate, creating a sense of calm and stability. The 4-7-8 pattern can be particularly effective in moments of acute anxiety, as it provides a simple, structured focus that redirects your mind away from anxious thoughts. Grounding exercises are another mindfulness tool that can anchor you in the present moment, especially when anxiety feels like it's spiraling out of control. Grounding involves using your senses to connect with your immediate environment, helping to break the mental loop of worry and fear. One popular grounding exercise is the 5-4-3-2-1 technique, which guides you to engage all 5 senses. Identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This sensory inventory pulls you out of your head and into your surroundings, providing a momentary respite from anxious thoughts. You can also create your own grounding rituals, like holding an object with a comforting texture, feeling the temperature of a cool breeze on your skin, or running your hands under warm water. The goal is to find sensations that bring you back to your body in the present moment, reminding you that no matter how intense your thoughts, you are still here, still in control. Incorporating mindfulness into daily life. Mindfulness doesn't have to be a formal practice reserved for quiet meditation sessions. In fact, some of the most powerful mindfulness moments happen in the midst of everyday life. By bringing mindful awareness to ordinary activities, you can transform mundane moments into opportunities for calm and connection, making mindfulness an integral part of your routine rather than an occasional escape. Start by identifying small pockets of time in your day where you can infuse a bit of mindfulness. This could be while brushing your teeth, drinking your morning coffee, walking to your car, or even waiting in line at the grocery store. Instead of letting your mind wander to worries about the past or future, focus on the sensations of the present. The taste of toothpaste, the warmth of the mug in your hands, the rhythm of your footsteps, or the ambient sounds around you. These brief moments of mindfulness can accumulate, creating a habit of staying present even when anxiety tries to pull you elsewhere. One powerful but often overlooked way to practice mindfulness is through mindful eating. Social anxiety can make mealtime stressful, particularly in public or group settings where you may worry about being judged. By slowing down and fully engaging with your food, you can turn eating into a calming, sensory-rich experience. Notice the colors, textures, and flavors of your meal. Chew slowly, savor each bite, and pay attention to how your body feels as you eat. Mindful eating isn't just about nourishment. It's a way to ground yourself in the present, easing anxiety through simple sensory engagement. Mindful movement is another effective way to integrate mindfulness into your daily life. This doesn't necessarily mean a structured exercise routine, though yoga and Tai Chi are wonderful for this purpose. It can be as simple as taking a few moments to stretch, walk, or move your body with awareness. Notice how your muscles feel as they engage and release, how your breath flows in sync with your movement, and how the ground supports you. By tuning into your body's sensations, you create a mindful connection that can soothe your mind and alleviate anxiety. It's also valuable to cultivate a practice of mindful listening, especially in social situations where anxiety might otherwise dominate your thoughts. Instead of focusing on what you're going to say next or worrying about how you're being perceived, try to fully absorb what the other person is saying. Notice their tone, their expressions, and their body language. By shifting your attention outward, you lessen the grip of self-consciousness and create a more genuine connection. Mindful listening not only improves your social interactions but also reinforces the idea that your presence, just as it is enough. Mindfulness as a response to anxious thoughts. Anxiety thrives on overthinking, replaying past conversations, rehearsing future scenarios, and scrutinizing every word and action. Mindfulness offers a different approach. Instead of getting caught in the whirlwind of thoughts, you learn to observe them with curiosity and detachment. It's not about stopping anxious thoughts, they will come as thoughts always do, but about shifting how you relate to them. When an anxious thought arises, imagine it as a leaf floating down a stream. You don't need to chase it, hold on to it, or push it away. Simply watch it pass by, acknowledging its presence without judgment or resistance. This visualization can help you create distance between yourself and your thoughts, reminding you that you are not your anxiety, you are the observer of it. Labeling your thoughts is another effective mindfulness technique. When you catch yourself spiraling into anxiety, try naming what you're experiencing: worrying, planning, criticizing, or catastrophizing. This simple act of labeling can interrupt the automatic thought process, bringing you back to the present moment. It's a gentle reminder that your thoughts are just mental events, not absolute truths or commands. You can also practice mindful self-compassion, a form of mindfulness that emphasizes kindness toward yourself when anxiety flares up. Instead of berating yourself for feeling anxious, try speaking to yourself with the same compassion you would offer a friend. Say, "This is a tough moment, but it's okay to feel this way," or, "I'm doing the best I can right now." Mindful self-compassion allows you to hold space for your anxiety without adding layers of self-criticism, fostering a sense of inner calm and resilience. Building a sustainable mindfulness practice. Sustainability is key when it comes to mindfulness. It's not about committing to hours of meditation each day or achieving a perfect state of Zen. It's about weaving small, mindful moments into the fabric of your life, creating a practice that feels supportive rather than burdensome. Start with just a few minutes a day and build from there, gradually expanding your practice as it feels right for you. Remember, mindfulness is not about doing it right or achieving a specific outcome. It's about showing up with awareness, curiosity, and kindness, no matter what you're experiencing. Some days mindfulness will feel easy and soothing. Other days it might feel like a struggle. Both are perfectly normal. The practice itself is the goal, and every time you bring your attention back to the present, you're strengthening your ability to cope with anxiety. Mindfulness is not a quick fix, but a lifelong companion on your journey toward greater peace, presence, and self-acceptance. It teaches you to be with yourself as you are in this moment, whether that moment is filled with joy, sorrow, calm, or fear. Through mindfulness, you learn that you are not just the sum of your anxious thoughts but a dynamic, resilient being capable of navigating life's ups and downs with grace and courage. As you continue to explore mindfulness, remember that each mindful breath, each grounding sensation, and each moment of awareness is a step toward reclaiming your mind from the grips of anxiety. You are cultivating a new way of being, one that embraces the present, honors your experiences, and finds peace in the simple act of being. With mindfulness, you are not just managing anxiety, you are transforming your relationship with it, one mindful moment at a time. Chapter 7. Emotional Regulation. Managing Panic and Distress. Techniques to regulate emotions in high-stress situations. Social anxiety often brings with it a flood of intense emotions, fear, embarrassment, panic, that can feel overwhelming and out of control. In high-stress situations, your body and mind react as if you're facing a real, physical threat, even though the danger is purely emotional or psychological. Your heart races, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense up, and your thoughts spiral into catastrophic territory. This is your body's fight-or-flight response kicking in, an ancient survival mechanism designed to protect you from harm. But in the context of social anxiety, this response often misfires, turning everyday interactions into perceived threats. Learning to regulate your emotions in these moments is crucial, not only for managing anxiety but for reclaiming your sense of control. Emotional regulation isn't about suppressing or ignoring your feelings. It's about recognizing them, understanding them, and finding ways to soothe and manage them without being overwhelmed. By developing emotional regulation skills, you can navigate anxiety with greater resilience, transforming panic into poise. One of the most effective techniques for regulating emotions is deep breathing. While it might sound overly simplistic, intentional breathing directly impacts your nervous system, slowing your heart rate and calming the physiological symptoms of anxiety. When you breathe deeply and slowly, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, often referred to as the rest and digest system, which counteracts the adrenaline rush of the fight-or-flight response. In moments of intense anxiety, pause and focus on your breath. Inhale slowly through your nose, counting to 4, and then exhale gently through your mouth for a count of 6. Repeat this cycle several times, allowing each breath to anchor you back to the present. Another powerful tool is progressive muscle relaxation, PMR, a technique that involves systematically tensing and then relaxing each muscle group in your body. This practice not only helps to release physical tension but also shifts your focus away from anxious thoughts and back into your body. Begin by finding a comfortable position and taking a few deep breaths. Start with your toes, tensing them tightly for a few seconds before releasing the tension and noticing the sensation of relaxation. Gradually work your way up through your legs, abdomen, chest, arms, and face, tensing and relaxing each muscle group. PMR not only calms the body but also provides a tangible way to feel in control of your physical state. Calming your nervous system. Practical exercises. Your nervous system plays a pivotal role in how you experience anxiety, often becoming overactive in response to perceived threats. Calming your nervous system is not just about mental techniques. It also involves physical actions that can shift your body out of panic mode. One such technique is the butterfly hug, a simple self-soothing method that combines gentle touch with rhythmic tapping to help regulate your emotions. Cross your arms over your chest, placing your hands on your shoulders or upper arms, and begin to tap alternately, right then left, at a slow, steady pace. This bilateral stimulation engages both hemispheres of your brain, helping to reduce emotional distress and bring a sense of calm. Another effective exercise is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique, which engages your senses to bring you back into the present moment. When anxiety strikes, your mind often gets caught in a loop of fearful thoughts, disconnected from the reality of your surroundings. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique helps break this cycle by directing your attention to what you can see, touch, hear, smell, and taste. Start by naming 5 things you can see around you, then 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This sensory checklist helps anchor you in the now, providing a brief but powerful respite from anxious rumination. Turning panic into poise. Building emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from distressing experiences, adapting to stress and adversity with greater ease. For those with social anxiety, building resilience means learning to handle uncomfortable emotions without letting them dictate your actions. It's about shifting your mindset from "I can't handle this" to "this is tough, but I can get through it." Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's a skill that can be developed through practice, patience, and self-compassion. One key aspect of building resilience is normalizing discomfort. Anxiety thrives in the belief that distress is intolerable, something to be avoided at all costs. But the truth is, everyone experiences discomfort in social situations at times, even those who seem outwardly confident. The difference lies in how we respond to that discomfort. Instead of seeing anxiety as an enemy to be vanquished, try viewing it as a wave to be ridden, a natural, albeit unpleasant, part of the human experience. Remind yourself that anxiety, while uncomfortable, is not dangerous, and that you have the capacity to endure and move through it. Resilience also involves embracing a growth mindset, the belief that challenges are opportunities for learning and growth rather than insurmountable barriers. When you view your anxiety as a teacher rather than an adversary, you can approach each anxious moment with curiosity instead of dread. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I grow from it? This shift in perspective not only reduces the power of anxiety but also empowers you to see yourself as capable of change. Embracing self-compassion, the antidote to self-criticism. Social anxiety often comes with a harsh inner critic, one that's quick to judge, quick to blame, and slow to forgive. This self-critical voice amplifies your fears, turning minor missteps into perceived failures and normal anxieties into evidence of personal flaws. The antidote to this relentless self-criticism is self-compassion, the practice of treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience that you would offer a friend. Self-compassion is not about excusing or dismissing your experiences. It's about acknowledging your struggles with empathy rather than judgment. It's recognizing that anxiety is not a personal failing but a part of being human. When you feel the sting of social anxiety, whether it's after a difficult conversation, an awkward interaction, or a moment of self-doubt, pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Often, the answer isn't more criticism but more understanding. One simple self-compassion exercise involves placing a hand on your heart or another comforting place on your body and repeating kind, supportive phrases to yourself. You might say, "This is a moment of suffering, suffering is part of life, and may I be kind to myself in this moment." These affirmations remind you that you are not alone in your anxiety and that it's okay to feel the way you do. Self-compassion creates an internal environment of safety, reducing the emotional intensity of anxiety and fostering a sense of inner calm. Self-compassion also means setting realistic expectations for yourself. Social anxiety often involves perfectionistic tendencies, the belief that you must perform flawlessly in every interaction to be worthy of connection. But perfection is not only unattainable, it's also unnecessary. Allow yourself to be imperfect, to stumble, to have awkward moments. These experiences are not evidence of failure, they're simply part of being human. When you approach yourself with gentleness, you create the emotional space to grow, heal, and thrive. Practical strategies for managing distress in real time. When anxiety strikes in the middle of a social situation, it can feel paralyzing, as if you've lost all control. But even in these moments of heightened distress, there are strategies you can employ to regain your composure and manage your emotions. One such strategy is self-talk reframing, the practice of consciously replacing anxious thoughts with more balanced, supportive ones. If your mind tells you, "Everyone is judging me," counter with, "People are likely focused on themselves just as I am." This reframing doesn't deny your anxiety. It simply offers a more realistic perspective that reduces the emotional charge of the moment. Another helpful approach is visualization, a technique that involves mentally rehearsing a calm, successful outcome before entering a stressful situation. Before a presentation, meeting, or social event, take a few moments to close your eyes and imagine yourself navigating the situation with confidence and ease. Picture yourself speaking clearly, making eye contact, and feeling relaxed. Visualization primes your brain for success, creating a mental template that guides your actions when the real moment arrives. Reframing setbacks as opportunities for growth. Emotional regulation also means rethinking how you perceive setbacks. For those with social anxiety, even minor missteps, stumbling over a word, misreading a social cue, or feeling out of place, can feel devastating. But setbacks are not proof of failure, they are integral to the process of growth. Each time you face a challenging social situation, you are gathering valuable information about your triggers, your reactions, and your strengths. Instead of viewing setbacks as confirmation of your worst fears, try to see them as opportunities to learn and adapt. Ask yourself, what went well in this situation? What could I do differently next time? This reflective approach not only softens the blow of disappointment but also equips you with insights that can improve your future interactions. Growth is not linear, and setbacks are not dead ends. They are detours that can lead to greater understanding and resilience. Developing a routine of emotional self-care. Just as physical fitness requires regular exercise, emotional resilience requires ongoing self-care. This doesn't mean you need to devote hours each day to self-reflection or meditation. It means creating small, consistent habits that nurture your emotional well-being. Consider integrating daily practices that soothe your nervous system and build emotional strength. Whether it's journaling, spending time in nature, engaging in creative activities, or simply taking a few moments each day to check in with yourself. Creating a routine that includes time for rest, reflection, and self-compassion reinforces the message that your emotional health matters. It's about making space for your feelings, tending to your needs, and giving yourself permission to slow down, even in a world that often demands constant productivity. Emotional self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity, especially for those navigating the complexities of social anxiety. Emotional regulation is a lifelong journey. Emotional regulation is not a destination you reach but a continuous practice, a journey of learning to navigate your inner world with greater awareness, compassion, and skill. There will be days when your emotions feel manageable and days when they overwhelm you. Both are part of the process. The goal is not to eliminate anxiety but to build a relationship with it that is grounded in understanding rather than fear. As you continue to develop your emotional regulation skills, remember that every effort counts. Each time you take a deep breath, offer yourself compassion, or approach a setback with curiosity, you are strengthening your capacity to handle whatever comes your way. You are teaching yourself that anxiety, while a part of your experience, does not have to control your life. Emotional regulation is about reclaiming your power, one mindful breath, one self-compassionate moment, one courageous step at a time. It's about turning panic into poise, distress into determination, and fear into fuel for growth. With each practice, you are not just managing anxiety, you are building a foundation of resilience that will carry you through life's challenges with grace and confidence. Chapter 8: Self-Compassion. Learning to be kind to yourself. The importance of self-compassion in healing social anxiety. Social anxiety can often feel like an internal battle, one where the harshest blows don't come from the outside world but from within. It's a battle fought with self-criticism, judgment, and a constant fear of falling short. When anxiety hits, it's not just the fear of social situations that weighs you down. It's the relentless inner critic that tells you you're not good enough, that you're awkward, or that you're doomed to be misunderstood. This self-critical voice doesn't just exacerbate anxiety, it often serves as its driving force, making every stumble feel like a failure and every interaction a test of your worth. But there is another voice within you, one that often goes unheard amid the clamor of self-doubt and fear. This is the voice of self-compassion, the part of you that knows how to be gentle, understanding, and forgiving. Self-compassion is the practice of treating yourself with the same kindness and care that you would offer to a dear friend. It's about embracing your humanity, flaws and all, and recognizing that you are worthy of love and respect, no matter your struggles. For many, self-compassion doesn't come naturally. It feels foreign, uncomfortable, even selfish. We are often taught that kindness should be extended to others but rarely to ourselves, especially when we're at our most vulnerable. Yet, self-compassion is not a luxury, it's a necessity, especially for those dealing with social anxiety. It's the balm that soothes the wounds of self-criticism and the bridge that helps you cross from self-judgment to self-acceptance. Research has shown that self-compassion not only reduces anxiety but also fosters resilience, emotional stability, and a greater sense of well-being. When you learn to be kind to yourself, you create an internal environment that supports growth rather than stifles it. You begin to see your anxious moments not as personal failings but as opportunities to learn, adapt, and connect more deeply with yourself. Techniques for practicing self-compassion. Practicing self-compassion is like building a muscle. It requires consistent effort, patience, and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone. It's not about pretending that everything is fine or brushing aside your struggles. It's about facing those struggles with empathy and understanding. Here are some practical ways to cultivate self-compassion in your daily life. 1. Recognize your inner critic. The first step in practicing self-compassion is becoming aware of your inner critic, the voice that constantly finds fault, magnifies your mistakes, and tells you that you're not enough. This voice often masquerades as a motivator, pushing you to do better, but in reality, it feeds your anxiety and undermines your confidence. Start by noticing when your inner critic shows up. Pay attention to the words it uses, the tone it takes, and the impact it has on your emotions. When you catch your inner critic in action, pause and take a step back. Instead of accepting its judgment as truth, view it as just one perspective, an unkind one that you don't have to listen to. Imagine this voice as a critical character outside of yourself, and consider how you would respond if it were speaking to someone you care about. Often, this simple act of distancing yourself from your inner critic can weaken its hold and make room for a more compassionate response. 2. Self-compassionate self-talk. One of the most effective ways to cultivate self-compassion is by changing the way you talk to yourself, especially in moments of anxiety. When anxiety flares up, it's easy to fall into a cycle of self-blame and harsh criticism. But self-compassionate self-talk involves deliberately choosing kinder, more supportive language, even when you feel vulnerable or afraid. Instead of saying, "I can't believe I messed that up. I'm so stupid," try reframing it as, "This is a tough moment but it's okay to make mistakes. I'm learning." Or instead of, everyone thinks I'm awkward, you might say, I feel anxious right now and that's okay. It doesn't define who I am. These small shifts in language may seem insignificant, but they create a profound change in how you relate to yourself, turning moments of self-criticism into opportunities for self-care. If compassionate self-talk feels difficult or unnatural, imagine what you would say to a close friend who is feeling the way you are. Often, it's easier to extend kindness to others than to ourselves, so borrowing this perspective can help you find the right words. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you love, gently, kindly, and without judgment. Over time, these self-compassionate dialogues will become more natural, helping to soften the harsh edges of anxiety. 3. Self-compassion breaks. When anxiety hits, it's easy to get lost in a flood of negative thoughts and emotions. Self-compassion breaks are brief, intentional pauses where you check in with yourself, acknowledge your feelings, and offer yourself the comfort you need. This practice doesn't have to be long or complicated. It's about creating a moment of kindness in the midst of difficulty. Begin by noticing what you're feeling. Name it without judgment, whether it's fear, sadness, frustration, or shame. Then remind yourself that suffering is a universal experience. You are not alone in your pain. Say something like, I'm not the only one who feels this way. Many others are struggling too. Finally, offer yourself a compassionate phrase such as, may I be kind to myself in this moment, or, I'm doing the best I can right now. These simple words can serve as a powerful antidote to self-criticism, providing a sense of comfort and connection. 4. Embrace imperfection. Social anxiety often comes with a deep fear of making mistakes, of being seen as less than perfect. But perfection is an impossible standard, one that fuels anxiety and keeps you trapped in self-doubt. Embracing imperfection doesn't mean settling for less. It means accepting that being human is inherently messy, flawed, and imperfect. It means allowing yourself to be seen as you are, without the constant pressure to perform or prove your worth. Practice embracing imperfection by challenging the belief that you must be perfect to be loved or accepted. When you make a mistake, instead of hiding it or beating yourself up, try acknowledging it openly. Yes, I messed up, and that's okay. Celebrate your efforts, even when they fall short, and remind yourself that growth often comes from failure, not success. Embracing imperfection frees you from the constant fear of judgment and allows you to show up in the world authentically. 5. Nurture your inner child. Self-compassion can be especially powerful when directed toward your inner child, the part of you that carries the wounds of past hurts, fears, and insecurities. Social anxiety often has roots in early experiences of rejection, criticism, or feeling misunderstood. By nurturing your inner child, you create an opportunity to heal these old wounds and offer yourself the care and protection you may have needed back then. Take a moment to picture yourself as a child. Imagine this younger version of you, filled with hopes, fears, and a longing for acceptance. When you feel anxious or self-critical, gently remind yourself that this inner child is still a part of you, deserving of love and kindness. You might say, I'm here for you, or you're safe with me. Nurturing your inner child helps bridge the gap between your past and present, creating a sense of safety and self-compassion that can soothe anxiety at its roots. Letting go of perfectionism. Embracing your true self. Perfectionism is a common companion of social anxiety, driving the need to perform flawlessly and avoid mistakes at all costs. It's the voice that tells you that anything less than perfect is a failure and that every misstep is a personal shortcoming. But perfectionism is not about striving for excellence. It's about fear, the fear of being judged, the fear of not being good enough, and the fear of being seen for who you truly are. Letting go of perfectionism means redefining your idea of success. It's about shifting your focus from being perfect to being authentic, from trying to impress others to being true to yourself. This shift requires a willingness to be vulnerable, to show up imperfectly, and to embrace the messiness of being human. It's about accepting that mistakes are not failures but valuable learning experiences that help you grow. Practice letting go of perfectionism by setting realistic, flexible goals that allow room for error. Instead of aiming for perfect outcomes, aim for progress. Celebrate the effort you put into something regardless of the result, and remind yourself that your worth is not tied to your achievements. By embracing your true self, imperfections and all, you create space for deeper connections, both with yourself and with others. Creating a self-compassionate daily routine. Integrating self-compassion into your daily routine helps reinforce the habit of kindness and ensures that it becomes a consistent part of your life. This doesn't mean you need to overhaul your schedule. It's about finding small, meaningful ways to connect with yourself throughout the day. Start your morning with a self-compassionate intention, such as, today I will be kind to myself, or, I will approach my day with patience and understanding. These simple affirmations set the tone for your day, creating a mindset of compassion from the moment you wake up. Throughout the day, take brief self-compassion breaks, especially during moments of stress or anxiety. A few deep breaths, a comforting phrase, or a gentle touch can make a significant difference in how you navigate challenges. End your day with a self-compassionate reflection. As you wind down, take a moment to acknowledge your efforts no matter how small. Instead of focusing on what you didn't do, celebrate what you did, whether it was facing a difficult situation, taking time for yourself, or simply getting through the day. This nightly practice helps shift your focus from self-criticism to self-appreciation, reinforcing the message that you are enough, just as you are. Self-compassion as a path to freedom. Self-compassion is not a quick fix or a one-time solution. It's a lifelong journey, a path that leads to greater self-awareness, resilience, and inner peace. It's about learning to be your own ally rather than your harshest critic, to stand by yourself even when things go wrong, and to offer yourself the kindness you so readily give to others. As you continue to practice self-compassion, you will find that social anxiety loses some of its power. The fear of judgment softens, the sting of mistakes lessens, and the need for perfection diminishes. You begin to realize that you are not defined by your anxiety but by your capacity to grow, to learn, and to be kind to yourself in the face of it all. Through self-compassion, you create a safe space within yourself, a refuge where you can rest, heal, and find the courage to keep moving forward. You learn that you are worthy of love, not because of what you do or how well you perform, but simply because you are. And in that realization lies the true freedom from social anxiety, the freedom to be yourself without fear and to know that you are enough. Chapter 9. The Power of Visualization and Positive Affirmations. Using visualization to boost confidence in social settings. Visualization is a mental technique that involves creating vivid, positive images of future events or desired outcomes in your mind. It's like a mental rehearsal where you see yourself succeeding, handling challenges with ease, and feeling calm and confident in situations that usually trigger anxiety. For people struggling with social anxiety, visualization can be a powerful tool to rewire the brain, reduce fear, and enhance self-confidence, all without having to face the stress of real-world exposure initially. Think of visualization as a kind of mental training. Just as athletes mentally rehearse their performances to sharpen their skills and build confidence, you can use visualization to practice social interactions in a safe, controlled environment, your mind. The beauty of visualization is that it engages the same neural pathways that are activated during actual experiences, meaning your brain can't always distinguish between real and imagined scenarios. This makes visualization a potent tool for building resilience and preparing yourself to face social situations with a new level of calm and assurance. Begin by finding a quiet, comfortable place where you can close your eyes and focus without distractions. Start with a few deep breaths to center yourself, allowing your body to relax. Next, choose a specific social situation that tends to trigger anxiety. It could be something as simple as a casual conversation with a coworker or something more challenging like giving a presentation or attending a party. The key is to be specific so that your visualization is clear and detailed. Once you've chosen your scenario, imagine yourself in that situation. Picture every detail, the setting, the people around you, the sounds, and even the scents. See yourself moving through the interaction with ease. Your posture is relaxed, your voice is steady, and you're engaging with others confidently. Visualize yourself smiling, making eye contact, and feeling at ease. If you encounter any anxiety in your visualization, don't shy away from it. Instead, imagine yourself handling it calmly. Picture yourself taking a deep breath, steadying yourself, and continuing on with grace. By repeatedly visualizing these positive scenarios, you are essentially practicing success. You're training your brain to expect a positive outcome, which reduces the fear response and builds a sense of familiarity and comfort with the situation. Visualization isn't just about imagining the best-case scenario. It's about seeing yourself manage discomfort effectively, proving to yourself that you can navigate social interactions without being overwhelmed by anxiety. Another powerful aspect of visualization is rehearsing responses to common challenges. If you know that you often freeze up when someone asks you a question or that you tend to shy away from eye contact, visualize yourself responding differently. Imagine yourself pausing, gathering your thoughts, and responding calmly even if you feel nervous. The more you mentally rehearse these moments, the more prepared you will feel when they occur in real life. Visualization helps you create a mental script for success, reducing the uncertainty that often fuels anxiety. Crafting personal affirmations to rewire your mind. Positive affirmations are short, powerful statements that you repeat to yourself regularly to challenge negative beliefs and reinforce positive thinking. They act as a counterbalance to the inner critic, the part of you that constantly highlights your fears, doubts, and perceived shortcomings. For those with social anxiety, affirmations can serve as a mental reset button, shifting your focus from what could go wrong to what is possible. They're not about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. They're about choosing to focus on what strengthens you rather than what holds you back. Crafting personal affirmations starts with identifying the negative thoughts that frequently undermine your confidence. These might be thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," "people are judging me," or "I can't handle social situations." Write these thoughts down, not to dwell on them but to bring them into the light where they can be challenged. Then, create affirmations that directly counter these beliefs. For example, if your thought is, "I always make mistakes when I talk," your affirmation could be, "I speak clearly and confidently, and it's okay to make mistakes." When crafting affirmations, focus on the present tense and positive language. Statements like, "I am confident," "I am worthy of connection," or "I handle social situations with calm and ease," send a powerful message to your brain. Even if these statements don't feel entirely true right now, repeating them consistently begins to rewire your thought patterns, gradually shifting your mindset from fear to empowerment. The effectiveness of affirmations lies in their repetition. To make them a part of your daily routine, consider incorporating them into moments of quiet reflection, such as when you wake up in the morning, during your commute, or before going to bed. You can also write them on sticky notes and place them where you'll see them often, on your mirror, your desk, or your phone background. The more frequently you repeat your affirmations, the more they will start to feel like your truth. Another powerful approach is to combine affirmations with visualization. As you repeat your affirmations, close your eyes and visualize yourself embodying those qualities. If your affirmation is, "I am calm and confident," imagine yourself in a social situation where you feel composed, at ease, and fully present. This combination of mental imagery and verbal reinforcement can amplify the impact of affirmations, helping to solidify these new beliefs in your mind. Integrating affirmations into your daily routine. Integrating affirmations into your daily routine doesn't have to be time-consuming or complicated. The key is to find moments where you can pause, reflect, and connect with your affirmations, even if it's just for a minute or two. Begin by selecting a few affirmations that resonate with you most, statements that address your specific fears and aspirations. Write them down, keep them on your phone, or memorize them so they're always accessible. Start your day with affirmations as part of your morning ritual. Before you dive into your to-do list or check your phone, take a few moments to repeat your affirmations aloud or in your mind. This simple practice sets a positive tone for the day, anchoring your mindset in self-assurance and possibility rather than anxiety. You can also incorporate affirmations into your social interactions. Before entering a situation that makes you anxious, take a quiet moment to recite your affirmations. For example, if you're about to attend a meeting, repeat, "I am capable and my voice matters." If you're meeting new people, remind yourself, "I am worthy of connection and I enjoy engaging with others." These affirmations serve as a mental pep talk, boosting your confidence and helping you approach the interaction with a positive attitude. Throughout the day, whenever you catch yourself falling into negative self-talk, use your affirmations as a way to interrupt the cycle. It's easy for anxious thoughts to take over, but by consciously redirecting your focus to your affirmations, you can break the pattern and create a new, more empowering narrative. Think of your affirmations as a lifeline, a way to pull yourself back from the edge of anxiety and reconnect with your inner strength. To deepen the impact, consider pairing your affirmations with physical gestures that reinforce their message. For instance, when you say, "I am strong and resilient," place your hand on your chest as a symbol of your inner power. Or when you affirm, "I am calm and grounded," try taking a deep, steady breath to embody that sense of calm. These simple actions help anchor the affirmations in your body, making them feel more real and tangible. Affirmations as a tool for long-term change. While affirmations may seem like small, simple statements, their consistent practice can lead to profound long-term change. They work by gradually shifting your self-perception, challenging the deeply ingrained beliefs that have fueled your social anxiety for so long. Over time, affirmations help you build a new, more supportive inner dialogue, one that encourages rather than criticizes, uplifts rather than undermines. As you continue to use affirmations, be patient with yourself. Change doesn't happen overnight, and there will be days when the old negative thoughts resurface. This doesn't mean you've failed or that affirmations aren't working. It simply means you're human. Each time you choose to return to your affirmations, you are reinforcing a new way of thinking, even if it feels subtle or gradual. Remember that affirmations are not about denying reality or forcing yourself to be positive all the time. They're about creating a mental environment that supports your growth, resilience, and self-compassion. By choosing affirmations that resonate with you deeply, you give yourself permission to dream, to believe, and to step into a version of yourself that feels empowered and capable. Visualization and affirmations. Reclaiming your power. Visualization and affirmations are more than just mental exercises. They are tools that allow you to reclaim your power from the grips of social anxiety. They remind you that, while you may not be able to control every aspect of a social situation, you do have control over your mindset, your self-talk, and the way you show up in the world. Through consistent practice, these techniques help you rewrite the narrative of your life, shifting from a story of fear and self-doubt to one of confidence, connection, and self-assurance. As you continue to explore visualization and affirmations, allow yourself to be open to their transformative potential. Visualize not just the person you want to become, but the person you already are, the resilient, courageous individual who has the capacity to navigate social anxiety with grace and strength. Use affirmations to speak to this part of yourself, to nurture it, and to let it shine. This journey is not about becoming someone else. It's about discovering the best version of yourself, the one that has always been there, waiting to be seen and celebrated. With each visualization, each affirmation, and each step forward, you are reclaiming your right to be fully and authentically you. Chapter 10. Maintaining progress and preventing relapse. Creating a long-term plan to stay anxiety-free. Overcoming social anxiety is a transformative journey, one that requires patience, perseverance, and a commitment to ongoing growth. As you've worked through the techniques and strategies in this book, you've likely experienced moments of progress, times when anxiety loosened its grip and you felt a newfound sense of freedom. But the journey doesn't end with a single breakthrough or a fleeting sense of relief. The key to lasting change lies in maintaining your progress and building a sustainable plan to keep anxiety at bay. It's important to understand that social anxiety isn't something that simply disappears overnight. Even after months or years of diligent effort, you may find that anxious thoughts and feelings occasionally resurface. This doesn't mean you've failed or that your progress was an illusion. It's a normal part of the healing process. Anxiety is a deeply ingrained pattern, and old habits can re-emerge, especially during times of stress or uncertainty. However, with the right tools and mindset, you can navigate these setbacks with resilience, turning what might feel like a step backward into an opportunity for further growth. Creating a long-term plan begins with a clear understanding of what has worked for you. Reflect on the strategies and practices that have helped you the most, whether it's cognitive behavioral techniques, mindfulness exercises, exposure therapy, or the use of affirmations and visualization. These tools are your personal toolkit, tailored to your unique experience of anxiety. By identifying your most effective techniques, you can develop a daily or weekly routine that incorporates these practices, reinforcing the progress you've made and keeping your skills sharp. One of the most important elements of a long-term plan is consistency. The techniques that have helped you reduce anxiety are not just temporary fixes. They are skills that require regular practice. Consider creating a routine that includes a few minutes of mindfulness each day, regular self-reflection through journaling, or setting aside time each week to challenge yourself with small exposure exercises. The goal is not to overwhelm yourself with an extensive regimen but to build a sustainable practice that fits seamlessly into your life. Incorporate self-compassion as a core component of your long-term plan. Remind yourself that it's okay to have bad days, to feel anxious, or to struggle. Self-compassion doesn't just soften the impact of anxiety, it also prevents the all-or-nothing thinking that can lead to feelings of defeat. When anxiety resurfaces, treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a friend. Remember, your worth is not defined by your ability to be anxiety-free. It's defined by your resilience, your courage, and your willingness to keep moving forward. Dealing with setbacks. How to bounce back quickly. Setbacks are an inevitable part of any journey toward change. No matter how much progress you make, there will be moments when anxiety reappears, often when you least expect it. These setbacks can be discouraging, triggering a cascade of negative thoughts. I thought I was past this, or, why am I back here again? But experiencing a setback doesn't erase your progress. It's simply a reminder that growth is not linear. The key is to approach these moments with a mindset of resilience and self-compassion, recognizing that setbacks are opportunities to learn and strengthen your coping skills. When a setback occurs, the first step is to acknowledge your feelings without judgment. It's natural to feel frustrated, disappointed, or even scared when anxiety resurfaces. But these emotions are not a reflection of your worth or your ability to continue progressing. Take a moment to pause and name what you're feeling. I'm feeling anxious right now, and that's okay. This simple act of acknowledgement can diffuse some of the emotional intensity, allowing you to approach the situation with greater clarity. Next, take inventory of the tools and strategies that have helped you in the past. If your anxiety is triggered by a specific event, such as a stressful meeting, an unexpected social invitation, or a difficult conversation, consider which techniques might be most helpful in that moment. Would deep breathing help calm your nerves? Could a brief visualization of a successful outcome reduce your fear? Perhaps a self-compassion break would provide the comfort you need to navigate the setback with grace. By actively engaging with your toolkit, you empower yourself to respond rather than react. It's also important to reframe setbacks as part of the process, not as failures. Instead of viewing a resurgence of anxiety as a step backward, try to see it as an opportunity to practice your skills in a new context. Each time you face anxiety, you are refining your ability to cope, building resilience that will serve you in the future. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I use this moment to strengthen my progress? This shift in perspective helps transform setbacks into valuable learning experiences, reinforcing the idea that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Remember to reach out for support when needed. You don't have to face setbacks alone. Whether it's talking to a trusted friend, seeking guidance from a therapist, or connecting with a support group, sharing your experiences can provide comfort, perspective, and encouragement. Support networks can offer validation and remind you that setbacks are a common part of the journey, one that many others are navigating alongside you. Staying motivated, celebrating small wins. Maintaining progress requires motivation, and one of the most effective ways to stay motivated is to celebrate your successes, no matter how small they may seem. Social anxiety often thrives on a narrative of not enough, not confident enough, not social enough, not perfect enough. But celebrating your wins, even the tiniest ones, helps rewrite that narrative, shifting your focus from what you lack to what you've accomplished. Start by setting small, achievable goals that align with your long-term plan. These goals don't have to be monumental. They can be as simple as making eye contact with a stranger, starting a conversation, or attending a social event, even if just for a few minutes. The purpose of these goals is not to eliminate anxiety entirely but to challenge it in manageable, incremental ways. Each time you achieve a goal, no matter how modest, take a moment to acknowledge your effort and celebrate your success. Create a progress journal where you record your achievements and reflect on how far you've come. Write down each time you face a fear, each time you use a coping technique, and each time you feel proud of yourself for trying. Include details about what went well, how you felt, and what you learned. This journal serves as a tangible reminder of your progress, providing motivation and encouragement, especially on days when anxiety feels particularly strong. Celebrating small wins can also involve rewarding yourself in meaningful ways. These rewards don't have to be elaborate. Something as simple as treating yourself to a favorite activity, enjoying a relaxing evening, or taking time for self-care can reinforce the positive strides you're making. The goal is to associate your efforts with positive reinforcement, making the process of facing anxiety feel rewarding rather than punishing. It's also helpful to share your successes with others. Social anxiety often fosters a sense of isolation, but sharing your journey with trusted friends, family, or a supportive community can amplify your achievements. When you share your wins, you not only receive validation and encouragement but also inspire others who may be on a similar path. Celebrating together creates a sense of connection and reinforces the idea that you are not alone in your struggles or your successes. Developing resilience, preparing for future challenges. One of the most empowering aspects of maintaining progress is developing resilience, the ability to adapt, recover, and grow from challenges. Resilience doesn't mean you won't experience anxiety. It means you have the skills and mindset to navigate it without being overwhelmed. Building resilience involves preparing for future challenges, recognizing potential triggers, and strengthening your emotional and mental resources. Start by identifying the situations that are most likely to trigger anxiety for you. Is it public speaking, meeting new people, or dealing with criticism? By understanding your specific triggers, you can develop strategies tailored to those situations, allowing you to approach them with greater confidence. For example, if networking events make you anxious, prepare by practicing small talk with friends, setting achievable goals for the event, and visualizing positive interactions. Having a plan in place reduces uncertainty, making the experience feel more manageable. Another key to resilience is maintaining a balanced lifestyle that supports your mental and emotional well-being. Regular exercise, adequate sleep, a healthy diet, and time for relaxation all play a significant role in reducing overall anxiety. Consider incorporating activities that bring you joy and relaxation into your routine, whether it's reading, spending time in nature, engaging in creative hobbies, or connecting with loved ones. A balanced lifestyle not only enhances your resilience but also provides a strong foundation for maintaining progress. Mindset matters. Embracing a growth-oriented approach. A growth-oriented mindset is one that views challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. It's about shifting from a fixed mindset, where setbacks are seen as failures, to a growth mindset, where every experience is a chance to learn, adapt, and improve. This mindset empowers you to see anxiety not as an enemy to be defeated but as a part of your journey that can teach you valuable lessons about yourself. Practice cultivating a growth mindset by reflecting on your experiences with curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Reframe negative thoughts with questions like, "How can I grow from this experience?" Or, "What did this teach me about my strengths?" This approach transforms anxiety into a guide, one that highlights areas for growth and invites you to engage with life more fully. A growth-oriented mindset also means embracing imperfection. Perfectionism often fuels social anxiety, creating unrealistic expectations and amplifying fear of failure. By embracing imperfection, you give yourself permission to make mistakes, to be human, and to continue learning. Remind yourself that growth is not about being perfect. It's about showing up, trying, and learning along the way. Each imperfect moment is a stepping stone, guiding you toward greater resilience and self-acceptance. Final thoughts, your journey forward. Maintaining progress in your journey with social anxiety is not about reaching a point where you are completely free from fear. It's about learning to live with courage, self-compassion, and a sense of purpose. It's about continuing to grow even when setbacks occur, and knowing that each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. As you move forward, keep your toolkit of techniques close, stay connected to your support system, and celebrate each win along the way. Be patient with yourself, embrace the journey with an open heart, and remember that progress is not about perfection but persistence. You have come so far and the path ahead is full of possibilities. With each day, each practice, and each act of courage, you are creating a life that reflects your true self. One that is rich with connection, resilience, and the quiet confidence of knowing that you are enough just as you are. Your journey doesn't end here. It continues with every breath, every choice, and every moment of self-compassion. Keep going, keep growing, and trust that you have the strength within you to navigate whatever comes your way. Conclusion. Reflecting on your journey and embracing your new social self. Reflecting on your journey, celebrating your progress. As you reach the end of this book, take a moment to pause and reflect on how far you've come. The journey of overcoming social anxiety is not a straight line. It's a winding path filled with challenges, triumphs, setbacks, and countless small victories. You've ventured into the depths of your fears, faced them with courage, and armed yourself with a toolkit of strategies to navigate the complexities of social interactions. Whether you've just begun this journey or have been walking it for some time, your commitment to change is something to be celebrated. Reflect on the moments when you felt anxious but chose to show up anyway. Recall the times when you felt the familiar pang of fear but managed to stay grounded, using your breath or a comforting phrase to bring yourself back to the present. Remember the situations that once felt impossible but are now more manageable, thanks to your perseverance and practice. These moments are not just milestones, they are evidence of your growth, resilience, and capacity to change. You've learned to identify and challenge negative thoughts, recognize distorted thinking patterns, and confront your inner critic with compassion. You've practiced mindfulness, developed self-compassion, and explored the power of visualization to transform how you perceive social situations. Each chapter, each exercise, and each practice has contributed to a deeper understanding of yourself and your anxiety. You've equipped yourself with the skills to navigate life's social landscape with greater confidence, and that is no small feat. But this journey is about more than just techniques and strategies, it's about reclaiming your sense of self. Social anxiety often robs you of your authenticity, replacing it with self-doubt and fear. As you've worked through the challenges of anxiety, you've begun to reconnect with the parts of yourself that were hidden beneath the surface. The parts that are bold, compassionate, and unapologetically you. This is the essence of your journey, not just to manage anxiety but to rediscover and embrace the person you truly are. Resources for continued growth and support. While this book has provided you with a foundation of knowledge and tools, it's important to remember that the journey doesn't stop here. Social anxiety is a dynamic experience, one that evolves as you grow, encounter new situations, and face different challenges. Continued growth and support are essential to maintaining your progress and furthering your transformation. Consider seeking ongoing support through therapy, especially if you haven't already. Cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) remains one of the most effective treatments for social anxiety, and working with a professional can deepen your understanding of your triggers, guide you through more complex exposure exercises, and offer personalized strategies tailored to your needs. Therapy provides a safe space to explore your anxieties in greater depth, helping you to build on the work you've already done. Support groups can also be an invaluable resource. Connecting with others who understand your experience offers a sense of community and shared understanding that can be incredibly validating. Whether in person or online, support groups provide an opportunity to share your journey, hear others' stories, and offer and receive encouragement. These connections remind you that you are not alone, that many people, just like you, are navigating the challenges of social anxiety with courage and determination. Books, podcasts, and online courses can also serve as ongoing sources of inspiration and education. The field of anxiety management is continually evolving, with new insights, techniques, and perspectives emerging all the time. Staying informed and engaged with the latest research can keep your skills sharp and introduce you to new approaches that may resonate with you. Explore resources that align with your interests, whether it's mindfulness, self-compassion, or behavioral strategies, and allow yourself to be a lifelong learner on this journey. Final thoughts: embracing your new social self. As you move forward, remember that overcoming social anxiety is not about becoming fearless. It's about becoming more resilient, more self-compassionate, and more connected to yourself and others. It's about recognizing that anxiety, while a part of your experience, does not define you. You are more than your anxious moments, more than your fears, and more than the self-doubt that once held you back. You are a dynamic, capable, and courageous individual with the power to create the life you want. Embracing your new social self means giving yourself permission to be seen, to be heard, and to take up space in the world. It means allowing yourself to make mistakes, to have awkward moments, and to be imperfect, and knowing that none of these things diminish your worth. You've spent too long hiding behind the walls of anxiety. Now is the time to step out, to shine, and to let the world see you as you truly are. As you continue to build confidence in social situations, remind yourself that you don't need to have it all figured out. Life is messy, unpredictable, and often imperfect, and that's what makes it beautiful. Each interaction is an opportunity to connect, learn, and grow. Some days will feel easier than others, and there will still be moments when anxiety rears its head. But with each challenge, you are better equipped, more resilient, and more prepared to handle whatever comes your way.